All right, we're filming. Hillary for prison. What happened to that shit? Occupy Area 51. Doo, 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 doo. There's X-Files right up there. Boom shakalaka. My room's coming together better. I want to talk about occupying the Federal Reserve. We have one in Cleveland. We have a Cleveland branch up here. So I could get there. And all we would do is just stand out in front and hold signs. I'm not talking about doing anything violent. It would just be more attention on the real issue, which is what we need. We don't need all this mumbo jumbo, basically, is what I see. So, yeah, the little gray guys can, I think they can basically go to the wayside. If we had a revolution here, a real revolution, we have economic conquest, guys. That's what's really important. I'm going to try to read this the best I can. I'm going to try to present this the best I can with the cell phone I have in this book. But yeah, I mean, this is a really good little jewel I found, and he said that you're allowed to, spread the knowledge out of it. It's not copyrighted, so. America has been taken over, and our Constitution has been destroyed by economic conquest. To aid in showing how this was done, I will use illustration of coins and paper money. Many people quote Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5 of the U.S. Constitution, which states that the Congress shall have power to coin money, regulate the value thereof, but too often forgotten is Clause 6, which says that the Congress has the power to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States. I mean, Congress has the ability to stop the Federal Reserve from doing what it's doing. Okay? They hold the purse strings, really. The first thing we must do is find out what the current coinage was and what the coins were to be sure, what Congress did to provide for the punishment of the coin counterfeiters. Like what can be, what do you call counterfeiting? I mean, when you have a penny that's made out of zinc and it's not even copper, they even try to trick you, right? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I thought they were copper. People told me they were copper. They thought they were copper. But they're not. It's zinc. It's not copper. It's really a sick joke. So the first thing we must do, blah, blah, blah. We have already seen earlier in this book, this is a great book, by the way, what kind of coins there were, like with, basically from constitutional, documents. You can read it. It says it has to be a specific amount of gold and silver, and I'll go through that here. Article 1, Section 10 states no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin in tender in payment of debts. Okay? Now let's turn to the Coinage Act of April 2nd, 1792, where Congress defined what a dollar was by law in the United States and what the current coins were at the time. So dollars are units to be of the value of a Spanish milled dollar, like actual gold. That's a Spanish milled dollar. As the same is now current, blah, blah, blah. And to contain 371 grains, okay, and 4/16 parts of a grain of pure gold. That's specific. I mean, okay, or 416 grains of standard silver. This all-American pre-1964 silver dollars had within a few grains of that. So, it must be realized that the only way to counterfeit a coin is to debase the coin by making it smaller or using metals of less value. Like, that's what they're doing. Oh my god. Did Congress establish a punishment for counterfeiting or debasing our coins? For that answer, turn to Section 19. Yeah, they talked about killing people that tried to make the United States dollar into basically a token. Like when you go to Chuck E. Cheese, okay? And be it further enacted that if any of the gold or silver coins which shall be struck or coined at the said mint shall be debased or made worse as to proportion of fine gold or fine silver, therein contained or shall be of less weight or value than the same ought to be pursuant to the direction of this act. So they're talking about like basically putting extra metals into your metal and counterfeiting. That's what counterfeiting is putting other metals in besides gold or silver. Anything besides gold or silver is counterfeit. Alright, that's what they're saying here. Every such officer or person who shall commit any or either of the said offenses shall be deemed guilty of felony and shall suffer death. Okay? Death. Death, death, death. After 1964, there began to circulate what was called the Eisenhower dollar. It was about the same size and same weight, the same color at first glance as a silver dollar, but was just copper and nickel. Alright, do you guys get what I'm saying here? You gotta get what I'm saying. It contained no silver at all. Today you go to the bank and ask for 1 ounce coin, like silver ounce, the silver round, and all you get is a little thing called a Susan B. Anthony containing 109 grains of copper and 15.6 grains of nickel for a total weight of 125 grains. Talk about debasement. Talk about Chuck E. Cheese land. Talk about the land of, I sold my soul to the company store, all that. Look that song up. Oh my God. To show how totally brainwashed and ignorant the American people are concerning money, go to your bank and ask them for a dollar coin and a 50-cent coin. Then take a good look at them. You will see that the 50-cent coin is larger than the dollar coin. It is made of copper, nickel, weighs 175 grains. Does anyone think that he could convince a farmer that a half a bushel of corn would be larger and weigh more than a whole bushel of corn? Yet the bankers have convinced us that half a dollar can be larger than a whole dollar. I mean, it's brainwashing what they did. And it costs more to make a half dollar than it does to make a dollar. Think about that. So next we turn to paper money to see how the beast has taken over and deceived us. First, you start with something that really looks good, such as gold or silver certificates. These bills were really just certificates of deposits, stating that there was gold and silver coin on deposit with the Treasury, and the bill was your proof of ownership. It would be no different than if you had 1,000 bushels of grain stored at the elevator and you had a certificate of deposit to prove your ownership. And if you wanted, you could pass your ownership to someone else by passing your certificate to them. So you wouldn't have to give them just a giant bushel, So to help gain an understanding of certificate, it's basically like a receipt. $1 bill, $5 bill, etc. And how the bankers in a sneaky manner change them from lawful to unlawful medium of exchange. Let us take a good look at the various bills. So now, let me kind of switch around here so you can see these illustrations, which are really neat. You look at this, if it'll focus, this camera's kind of suck. It says gold on the corner. It will focus. There it says gold, the certificate that there have been deposited in the Treasury of the United States of America. Gold coin, $10. The same as the Spanish coin, which was gold. The certificate is legal tender in the amount thereof and payment of all debts, dues, public, private, acts, March 14, 1900, method. So you can read that. This bill declares the certificate is a legal tender in the amount thereof in payment of all debts and dues, public and private, which means gold, Act of March 14, 1900, as amended on December 24th, 1919. Okay. So, what we have above is a certificate of deposit stating so on its face. So that's very important to understand that you could deposit gold and get this in exchange. So people had gold back then. They actually had gold. We don't even have gold really. Most people don't anyway. People that are most lemmings don't even know the real value intrinsically of gold. The certificate is legal tender and the amount thereof for payment of all debts, dues, public and private, blah blah blah. The owner of this note could use it as legal tender instead of carrying gold coins, or go to the bank and demand $10 in gold coin. Examine close, not a Susan B. Anthony or some shit. This is what they're saying. Examine closely the face of the 1914 Federal Reserve note. Note hereafter referred to as Federal Reserve note shown below. You will witness the beginning of the greatest fraud in all of history. So what is he saying here? If you look at the top, I'm going to try to this won't focus, dudes. Hold on. If it'll just focus, you can read it. There it goes. Okay, secured by United States certificates of indebtedness or United States 1-year gold notes deposited with the Treasury of the United States. So it starts out, did you guys catch that? Secured by the United States certificates of indebtedness. Okay, so let's keep reading on here. It's got George Washington on there. Hey, I'm not a Freemason. I love America. Okay, on the face of the FRN, Federal Reserve note, you will see that the Federal Reserve Bank, hereafter referred to as the Fed, of Minneapolis, promised to pay the bearer $1 on demand. But it does not say $1 of what? Okay, so be very careful and don't miss the phrase secured by United States certificate of indebtedness. At the top of the note, this clearly demonstrates the switch from a wealth money to a debt money. Do you guys understand this? I mean, it's pretty simple. In 1922, the gold note was much larger than the Fed note in use today. This changeover was done in 1928, making it beneficial to turn in all gold-backed notes. So the current size notes were issued in 1928. And as you can see, yeah, it's the Federal Reserve. It looks mostly like ours today. It doesn't have that evil-looking eagle on the side. Okay, but this bill states redeemable in gold on demand at the Federal Reserve, or at the United States Treasury, or in gold lawful money at the Federal Reserve Bank. Okay. With the bill shown above, you will see the tactics used by con men. This tactic being that the change must be very gradual so people wouldn't catch on. The bill is a Federal Reserve note now. Notice they left out the word bank, which was used in the previous Federal Reserve national currency note. Read closely the writing in the upper left-hand corner. It says redeemable in gold on demand at the United States Treasury or in gold or lawful money at the Federal Reserve Bank. Okay, as can be seen by the date, this bill of credit and the 1922 gold certificate would have been in circulation at the same time, and people accepted them as the same. Little did they realize that they were so different. Okay, the first one was a certificate of deposit, while the latter note was a note in evidence of debt. So it's just a debt note. It's not real money. It's you're walking around with debt in your pocket. At the bottom of this bill, we read the words, United States of America will pay to the bearer on demand $10. Therefore, it fulfills the requirements of a legal negotiable instrument. It was, number one, made by someone, number two, to somebody, and number three, redeemable in something. And number four, with a promise to pay. Okay? Now examine the note below the 1934 series Federal Reserve note. Again, we have a very subtle change. Okay. On this we read, the note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, and is lawful money at the United States Treasury or at any Federal Reserve Bank. This creation is still legal tender because it carries the four requirements of a legal negotiable instrument made by someone to someone, redeemable in something with a promise to pay. Next, we have a 1950s series Federal Reserve note. Okay. And with no changes in the wording, but the size of the wording has become very small. The conditions, this conditions us to overlook the fine print and to only go by size, color, picture, and denomination of the Federal Reserve notes. So it's just getting smaller and smaller as the years go by. It's called the inchworm effect, guys. It's a real psychological technique. And it's what most tyrannies have used in the past to trick people. This is the Babylonian money magic system. Same as it's always ever been. This note declares, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, and is redeemable in lawful money and the United States Treasury or at any Federal Reserve Bank. The next Federal Reserve note is the one you really want to study. It is the last stage of the con. Boom. So there you go. This is a 1981 series Federal Reserve note. This note is like the ones we carry in our pockets today. It was first issued in late 1963. First, let's look at the upper left-hand corner and read what is written there. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. What happened to the words redeemable and lawful money at the United States Treasury or at any Federal Reserve Bank? Quote unquote. It's not a bank, guys. Now, look at the bottom of the Federal Reserve note. Where are the words? Pay to the bearer on demand. It's just blankety blanks. Look at this. Let's go back and review what we have just read and studied in each step. The following definitions are taken from Black's Law Dictionary. Banknote. A promissory note issued by a bank or banker authorized to do so, payable to bearer on demand, and intended to circulate as money. Townsend versus People. Just read that. I don't know how to read all the law stuffs. Anyway, that's a lot of law stuffs there. Note, a unilateral instrument containing an express or absolute promise of signer to pay a specified person or order or bearer a definite sum of money at the specified time. Shano Finance Corporation versus Julius. And then it's got all the legally 214 WIS 637254. If you know what that means, you deserve a prize. So, all right. So from the above, we can see that for a note to be legal, it must contain an absolute promise to pay. It must be made to someone. It must have a definite sum of money. All right. It must be redeemable at a specified time or place. You notice how it said, if you go back, I'll go back because this is important. If you look at it, come on, just close up, dudes. Sorry. It goes and it says, dues, public and private acts of March 14th, 1900, as amended in December 24, 1919. So it has specific dates, all right, of when that promissory note. It's not a promissory note. Basically the whole understanding is that they were payable to the bearer. It was an absolute promise to pay written on the face, and they were to pay the bearer. So anyway, it's just a giant scam. The person holding the note on demand, $10 in lawful money in the United States, is mandated to be gold and silver coins in the United States, put in circulation, debt-free by the people. See the 1792 Coinage Act. 12 USC 411 reads, Federal Reserve notes to be issued at the discretion of the Board of Governors of the Fed system for the purpose of making advances to the Fed banks through the Fed agents as hereafter set forth, and for no other purposes are authorized. They shall be redeemed in lawful money on demand at the Treasury Department of the United States in the city of Washington, District of Columbia, or at any Federal Reserve Bank. By comparing what is written on the current Federal Reserve notes with the laws, it is obvious that there is no compliance of any kind. Note, only are Federal Reserve not only are Federal Reserve notes unlawful, but they don't equal value for all parties for three reasons. First of all, Federal Reserve notes are evidence of debt. Consequently, all they represent is debt. Second, the 12 Fed banks obtain them at only the cost of the printing, which is about $20.60 per thousand, 2 cents per bill. That's how much it actually costs them to make these little lies. And it says 10 on there. So it only costs 2 cents to make each bill, regardless of denomination. It could have, a bunch of zeros after that. It would only be worth 10 cents to them. And then we have to pay back that actual debt this 10, even though it costs them 2 cents. Okay, anyway. Third, the commercial banks do have to put up collateral equal to their face value to obtain the bills. But then they loan out 6 times the amount they receive on face value, while you and I must use them at their face value. There's the scam, guys. Okay? This is total treason. In 1933, our gold bullion and gold coins were illegally confiscated by order of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Then in 1964, silver was withdrawn from circulation, and the printing of the United States notes was stopped. It was stopped, thus leaving us with no medium of exchange except the debt notes, Federal Reserve notes, which come into the existence only as a loan, creating only the principal, never the interest. The result has been complete economic conquest of us Americans. From the Library of Congress, report number 83125E, page 30, we read, for all practical purposes, then, money is created when debt is incurred by households, corporations, and governments. All right. Well put. All right. Okay. This is debauchery of our currency. I hope you learned a little bit. If we eliminated the $1 bill and just used $2 bills, for example, that would save us millions of dollars. And if we eliminated the penny, that would save us millions and millions and millions of dollars. Because the Federal Reserve wouldn't charge us all this money to print those out for basically nothing, and then charge us interest on that debt accumulated by the actual denominations that they put on there, like the Monopoly Man. It's like some magic show, really. And so Occupy the Federal Reserve would be looking behind the magician's cape, if you will, and seeing all the little tricks he's got in his holsters. So, subscribe, like, tell me what I missed. There's a lot more to be said about the Federal Reserve that I have to go over. It is inevitable that the Federal Reserve will collapse because it is a Ponzi scheme. So I'll just leave it there for now. This will be the Rocco Bianco Show episode 2. Hope you liked it.